Ladies and gentlemen, fellas, welcome back to the channel. We're live streaming, so if you're watching this later on, it's 11:14 a.m. East Coast time right now. It's the one-game showdown slate where there's $100,000 Rooskies. Somebody's playing a drinking game if I say dollar Rooskies, so there you go, 2 shots for you. I'll try and limit that one, but $100,000 to first place tonight. And yeah, I got the projections up. They're on Patreon. I posted a little bit of a snippet of the Super Draft stuff on Twitter. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. Decent prize pools everywhere right now. Super Draft, $1,000 to first for this, $5,000 guaranteed. They just launched their NFL product for this year, and it's got $15,000 to first place, $125,000 guaranteed for Super Draft Week 1 NFL. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to wait, let people get up in here, and then we will go from there. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting slate. It's a one-game showdown, so it's a lottery system. I think we all know that by now, and if you don't think showdowns are a lottery system, for the most part, especially in the NBA, obviously it just comes down to trying to predict who gets the minutes, right? And the proper minutes, if you want to say that, which they're all going to be trying their hardest out here. Definitely for Memphis, so big minutes are to be expected. That's something that you already get. You kind of know Portland's rotation. They've been playing. Both of these teams have been playing to win, but Portland has just been going balls to the walls to get into the playoff for the past 2 weeks. So obviously Memphis has been too as well, but injuries to Jaren Jackson Jr. Sometimes you get the foul trouble of Jonas Valanciunas, and Dylan Brooks is a guy who gets in a lot of foul trouble, so minutes can fluctuate in a lot of their games, whereas Portland's minutes have been pretty stable. It's Dame going out there and playing 40+. It's McCollum playing damn near 40. It's Nurkic playing around 32 minutes a game, and then you get Gary Trent Jr. and you get Carmelo Anthony pretty much playing the mid-30s in minutes. Normally, Gary Trent will play more minutes, especially if he's shooting well from three, which he has been this entire bubble. He's been very good on defense in this bubble. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to get the Portland starters running out there for probably 35-plus minutes apiece as long as they stay out of foul trouble, except for Nurkic, who probably plays 32 to 33. That's how I have it right now. Off the bench for Portland, I see people hopping in. What's up? Off the bench, I think the biggest piece off the bench is going to be Zach Collins and Hassan Whiteside. You can then look at guys if you're trying to get different in like the Mario Hezonja range. I think Anthony Simons will be lucky to see like anything above 10 minutes of play, probably sees the single digits. I'm not projecting Lillard for 42 minutes and McCollum for 42. Like they both played 43 in the last game. But if that happens again, Simons is going to play like 2 to 4 minutes like he did last time. I see people are hopping in right now. This is for DraftKings only. Yeah, man, it's DraftKings and SuperDraft are the 2 sites that I play on right now primarily. Fellas, what's up? Let's go, Sal live stream. Sal, back at it again. Thank you, fam. What's up, Mike? How you doing, man? What's the format of this playing game? Is it like a 3-game series? So the 8 seed in Portland just has to win once, and if they win, they're fine. They're good to go. But Memphis has to win twice. So Portland just has to win once. Memphis has to win twice as the 9 seed. No advice for single-game FanDuel? Nah, man, I don't play on FanDuel, I think. And if you were paying attention to the industry yesterday, it's an exact reason why I don't play on FanDuel. I don't think they're a good site. I don't think they're a smart site. I don't think that they have the best interest of the user in mind, hence doing an update in the middle of the day that ruined a lot of money-making potential and lost a lot of money for an NBA slate that was going to have a lot of situations where you needed to change players at different lock times, and man, oh man, they did an update right in the middle of the day, not even counting the other sports that were going on as well. Oh man, we got the bots up in this place. Here we go. Morning, Sal. Let's get this money, man. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I mean, I think that you're gonna get normal run, right? Everybody's gonna get big minutes here. You're gonna see John Morant push. Maybe we get John Morant a 40-minute game. John Morant is so fun to watch. I mean, arguably very Russell Westbrook-esque in terms of transition, in terms of how he just plays almost like loosely out there, right? Just snagging rebounds. Last game, he was just fiending for a triple-double, and he got it. But it was just, he had open layups, and he was passing them up to just lay off assists for potential three-point shots. It was crazy. So both teams have a lot to play for. Yeah, I mean, both teams, this is for the playoffs. So this is a play-in game, if you don't know. It is the play-in game. It's the 8th and the 9th seed. If Portland wins, Portland goes to the playoffs. If Memphis wins, they have to beat Portland again tomorrow. So Memphis is the 9th seed. They have to win twice. Portland just has to win once out of these next 2 games. There are games scheduled for today and tomorrow. If Portland wins today, there is no game tomorrow. Portland goes on to play the Lakers. If Memphis wins today, they both play again tomorrow for sudden death to get into the playoffs to play the Lakers. There's so many bots in here. This is just absolutely insane. Sal, you're awesome, man. I watch your NFL content every day. Thanks, Carl. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, the NFL content. Just recorded another video today. Excited about that. And we go from there. There is just an absolute insane amount of bots in this chat today. Yeah, man. So right now what I have, at least projection-wise, let me pull this up. Projection-wise, I have it blocked out on here, but I'm looking at it on my screen. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So, like, it's hard. Lillard's so expensive, but it's hard not to get there when he literally projects out right now for me. Lillard is going to project out more points. I mean, I think you can get away from Lillard on Superdraft. I really think so. Like, I have a lot of guys projected higher than Lillard on Superdraft. I probably wouldn't even look to play him, as he'll probably pick up ownership. But I have Lillard projected for 14.5 more fantasy points than anybody else today. And that's only giving him 40 minutes, which we know if this game stays close, he'll probably play like probably 42 minutes. Why would people even come in here? Sal's great and has helped so many people. Yeah, man. It's either bots or it's just people who have like 7 YouTube subscribers and are trying to throw their shade on spending their Saturdays. I don't know if people haven't realized or not. The name of or part of the game in the YouTube game is you're going to have people saying just shitty things in YouTube comments and live streams. That can affect 0% of my mood. If anything, it makes me happier because you know that those people have such a, and this is going to sound douchey, but such a bad life that they have to come in and try and seek satisfaction by being negative in the chat, and it just gets deflected because I'm just like, brother, I'm living my best possible life out here, so there's absolutely nothing that can stop me. Favorite captain on Showdown, Sal? Yeah, so it depends how you want to play this. I think that your highest, projection-wise, it's going to be Lillard, but he's obviously the most expensive. He's going to be owned. Jonas Valanciunas, he would have been like my favorite option. He grades out as a very good option. He's probably my favorite super draft option, but you're looking at it on DraftKings. His last game is going to spark a lot of interest in Joe Val. So all the guys who went off last game for Memphis and Dylan Brooks, Joe Val, like they look great. I do think that if I had to rank captain options right now, straight up, it would be Lillard, Joe Val, and Morant, but those are the obvious choices. If you're trying to look for more of like a sneakier way to go about it, I think like sneaky type of upside at captain today. I still want to stick with the guys who are going to score the most, so those are my 3 probably favorites. Nurkic would probably be the guy who comes in with the lowest ownership that has the highest ceiling. We just haven't really seen his minutes go up yet. Maybe in this game, kind of a sudden death, not even a sudden death, a when you make the playoffs, maybe Nurkic starts to play a little bit more run. Coming back from the injury, though, they're not really pushing him past his 32 minutes for the most part, 33. So Lillard, Joe Val, and Morant in that order. Look, it's NBA. If you've played NBA Showdown, if you're used to NFL Showdown, you can get away with playing like the $4,000 wide receiver and winning the Showdown if he scores 2 touchdowns. In NBA Showdown, it's so projectable, and you know the guys who are going to pop off for points, that when Lillard scores 65 fantasy points tonight, or whatever it's going to be, 60, and if the next closest guy's only scoring 42, Lillard's probably going to be the captain, right? It's just like there's ways to get creative, but on Showdown NBA, even if you're trying to avoid ownership, getting creative quickly becomes playing it very bad, right? So Lillard, Joe Val, and Morant in that order, it seems pretty obvious, but that's just the way that it goes for NBA. NBA Showdown is probably the worst form of Showdown that I've seen. I prefer MLB. Obviously, I prefer NFL by a wide margin. I prefer soccer. Yeah, it's just NBA Showdown is terrible because the expensive players are normally the captains because the expensive players normally have by far the widest, highest ceilings and lowest range of outcomes. So that's why you get $12,000 Lillard. I'm pretty surprised to see Nurkic at $10,000, to be completely honest with you. I thought we would either see closer to $10K or closer to that second most expensive price tag, Jonas Valanciunas or Morant, as Morant is pretty close to $9,800. Dame is too pricey for captain. That's the thing, though. In the NBA, he's not. If you played NBA Showdown, which I try not to, but I've studied NBA Showdown, it's a totally different game. He's not too expensive for a captain, to be completely honest with you. Like, if Dame scores 70 fantasy points tonight, and in this captain spot he has 105 points, and then the closest next captain has 60 points in the captain spot, you're not going to be able to make up those extra 45 points anywhere else. Even if Dame scores 60 and you're getting an extra 30 to 35 fantasy points, a lot of the times you're not going to be able to make those up unless somebody like Zach Collins goes for 40 tonight, right? Like something like that would have to happen. You would have to have Zach Collins, Grayson Allen, somebody down there that would be a very cheap captain, pop off for like a 45 fantasy point day with their captain spot. It's going to be closer to 70 fantasy points. And then maybe that's enough at their cheap price point to allow you to fit in enough studs up top. But yeah, obviously when you're playing Dame, you're going to be giving up studs. You're not going to be able to fit in Lillard, Nurkic, Joe Val, and let's just say Morant. And if you are, you're probably settling for Anthony Tolliver's, probably like Mario Hezonjas, because then there's nothing else down there. Like, I don't really want to play Anthony Simons at all. I think he plays like single-digit fantasy points, single-digit minutes. The bots don't know that they're raising viewers and engagement every time they come back with a new profile. Yeah, man, it's just funny. Can you imagine being in a life where on your weekends, you wake up and you go, I'm going to be a negative person in some YouTube comment? I can't even imagine. Like, that makes me happier that my life is significantly better than those people's lives. And, like, they could change it. It's just that some people are just negative. Some people watch the news 24/7, and those same people are probably the ones that are just in YouTube comments being bots. Those are the people that buy the Dr. Oz approved soap that tells you you'll live an extra year, right? The Dr. Phil approved raisins that tell you you'll live an extra year. Those are those people. My grandparents. Joe Val goes for 40 plus. I have Joe Val projected for 40 plus today, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if he goes for it, but I haven't projected there. Sal, thoughts on Gary Trent Jr.? I like Gary Trent. Not on the captain spot, but Gary Trent's going to play big minutes. Gary Trent has been so good in this bubble. Like, underrated because of some of the other role players that have been very good that have popped off, like TJ Warren, like MPJ, right? But Gary Trent has been, obviously Lillard is the MVP of this team, but then it's Gary Trent after that. His defense has been absolutely insane and phenomenal on the wings. And his three-point shooting, I think, is the second best in the bubble right now, or at least it was up until Game 7 for them in the bubble. So, yeah. Trent is a strong option. He's going to play 34-plus minutes, probably 35-plus minutes. He's going to be, I would imagine, matched up a lot on Dylan Brooks. Maybe you see some Morant, although I don't think they would be putting his energy on that side of it. The other thing is if he does stay on Morant a lot, it will kind of take a lot of energy out of him. If Morant is going to be as aggressive as he normally is, so there can be a drop-off on the offensive side. $6,200 for Gary Trent. I would probably prefer $1,000 more for Melo. You're just going to get a lot more scoring, especially with the bigger minutes, a lot more scoring chances. But other than that, like Brandon Clark's $400 less, but odds are he plays like 5 to 10 less minutes, probably closer to 8 is what I have him at right now. So, yeah. I like Gary Trent Jr. I probably play Brandon Clark, especially if it leaves money on the table over him. Other than that, I think he's fine. I definitely play Dylan Brooks over him, but I assume a lot of people are going to go that route anyways. I have Brooks projected for 6 more fantasy points than Gary Trent today. Tyus Jones is the only major injury news right now to watch out for. He is doubtful, though, so that's why he's in red on the screen. Obviously, you need Dame. If you had to fade one, who would it be? Joe Val, John Morant, Joe Val, or Nurch? Who would it be? It would be Nurch at $10,000. That's the guy I would fade. The issue is like you're trying to play an ownership game here, and I would assume a $10,000 Nurch is not as appealing to people as $8,600 Joe Val, obviously, and probably a similarly priced John Morant. That's just my assumption, though. I haven't really looked into ownership for this slate. It's probably something I could do right now. But the guy I would fade would be Nurch at $10,000, just because you'll get similar minutes to Joe Val. You're just going to get a better fantasy point per minute producer out of Joe Val at $1,400 less. Like Nurch and Joe Val are not that different when it comes to fantasy point scoring. When they're both at their peak, it's like a 1.3 producer. But the issue is the price point. Like you're getting a very similar player for a totally different price point. Nurch has been better at not getting in foul trouble as much compared to Joe Val, but that's something that you have to deal with. I think that you kind of try to weight foul trouble. You can never weight it and project for it. But you try and be more aware of it when there's a $100,000 first showdown slate in one game, right? You try and be more aware of Dylan Brooks and Joe Val picking up heavy ownership as guys who normally get in foul trouble. You also try and be aware that they're in a do-or-die game. So, like these guys who are in foul trouble, normally when they pick up 2 fouls in the first quarter, they might not be coming out in the first quarter anymore like a Joe Val. So you get a little bit more run there, which helps it even more. So just being aware of everything at this point, it's just a crapshoot, right? Like, I'm obviously projecting it. I'm covering it right now because people want it, and I'm just doing a quick little stream. I'm probably not going to go much longer because it's literally one game, and I'll answer any questions. We've been on for 15 minutes. I'll probably go another 5 minutes, but it's a crapshoot. These things are lottery systems. If anybody tells you that they have a way outside of playing 150 lineups to gain a significant edge in a showdown NBA game, especially when it's not a end of the season, you kind of know better the rotations than other people. No, like the starters tonight are just going to get big run. The Memphis guys will split up some of their time between Grayson Allen and Kyle Anderson in terms of guys who probably won't start. The rest of it is just all going to be the main guys are the main guys. So hard to project that out. I don't even know like if anywhere's going to project ownership today. My guy comes through again, Mike Robridge. I imagine you're watching. What up, Steven Vetri in the chat? What up, brother Steve? My man Steve, selling that Jaren Jackson Jr. rookie card, was it, Steven? Bought it for like 60, sold it for like 2 and change. My man. That 400% ROI. Dylan Brooks, question mark? Yeah, Dylan Brooks looks good. Dylan Brooks looks good today. I mean, I have him as a yes right here. Like, I have Lillard, Joe Val, and Dylan Brooks as yeses right now as, like, the guys who kind of project out as some of my best DraftKings value. Outside of, like, Anthony Simons, if you're just going on value, point per dollar, like, he's $1,000. So if he projects for, like, 7 fantasy points, he's going to look good. But that's point per dollar wise. Obviously, I don't want to be playing that at just 7 pure points or 6.5. But, yeah, those are the guys who look best for me if you're talking about, like, value per their price point. Obviously, John Morant, I have him at 36 minutes. I think he can play more than that, obviously, if this game stays close. Morant's probably going to play 38 minutes just as often as he plays 36 in this one. Maybe I split the difference and give him 37. It won't change much for me. It'll make him, like, projected for 45 fantasy points instead of 43.5, something like that, a little bit less than 45. Everybody's laughing at what? The Dr. Phil references? Who wakes up at 11 a.m. mad at a guy helping you? Yeah, exactly. People who are bitter is the word. Nurkic or Val for the savings? Joe Val. He's going to have the ownership, though. But, like, this is the other thing. Just leave, like, $17,000 on the table if you can somehow, right? If you're playing Damian Lillard in the captain spot and you're trying to play John Morant and Joe Val after that, you probably can't leave that much money on the table. But, yeah, might as well try. Obviously, you can't pay too much attention to it, but are you worried about Joe Val fouling a lot like he did? Well, you just answered it. Yeah. So, Joe Val and Dylan Brooks are the guys in this slate who will get in the most foul trouble more times than not, and then probably Nurkic after that, Nurkic. The upside to that is, again, this is like potentially the last game for Memphis, so when Joe Val picks up 2 fouls in the first quarter, they might actually just play his normal rotation, right? They're going to push him a little bit more because the foul trouble is not as important as him just being able to be out there for every possible minute that he can be against a team that is just scoring 130 points a night right now in Portland, it seems. So, yeah, I think that there is a concern. There's definitely more of a concern that Dylan Brooks can just be played off the court from foul trouble because they have bodies that can take up more time. Grayson Allen is playing fantastic. They have Kyle Anderson, who I'm not going to say is playing fantastic because he's not, but they just have more bodies. They have Anthony Melton, who is definitely capable of filling in for Dylan Brooks. Brooks has been very hot the last, I would say, week and a half. So I don't think he's just quickly going to come off the court if he gets 2 quick fouls either. But it's obviously in the cards, as it always is. So just keeping in mind that Brooks and Joe Val are very much in play for foul trouble. If that's the edge you want to take in a showdown where $100,000 is on the line and a lot of people are playing very similar lineups, I don't think it's a bad idea to be like, you know what? If Dylan Brooks, who normally plays overly aggressive, just is not as on as he was in the last game, which was insanely hot fire from 3, and just overall coming off his screens at the elbow. If you think he gets in some sort of foul trouble and you want to leverage that by playing more $4,200 DeAnthony Melton, who I have projected for 20 points, and if there's like, or 20 minutes right now, not 20 points, though, less than that, and you think Melton gets now to 25, 26 minutes, or you think Grayson Allen goes to the 30s in minutes because of that, yeah, that's a narrative that you can build in that normally I would never build in, but for a one-game showdown slate where it's so hard to get different other than just playing bad lineups or leaving a lot of money on the table, that's one way you can go and just be like, you know what? If Dylan Brooks gets his normal foul trouble, that probably happens like 1 out of 4 games, we're set to go. Grayson Allen or Zach Collins? I'll go Grayson Allen there. Definitely a crapshoot. Do you like Carmelo? Yeah, I like Carmelo. Whiteside, Anderson, or Allen? And also, how much money is too much to leave on the table for a showdown? As much as you want. If you have a lineup that you think is pretty good and you have $17,000 left on the table, that's a lot of fucking money left on the table, but I think it's fine. When will Zach Collins have a decent game? He's so inconsistent. Yeah, man, he was so consistent until his injury this year. But he's been very inconsistent in the bubble. He's normally like closer to a 1 fantasy point per minute producer, and he's barely cracking 0.8 right now, so it's not great. Obviously, he's playing a lot now alongside Whiteside if they both come in together. So, yeah, I have Collins for 22 minutes. It keeps him in play because he can go off in that time. He's not getting the rebounds because he's playing either alongside Nurch or he's playing alongside Whiteside. So when your rebounding potential goes from like you playing 22 minutes, normally getting like 6 or 7, to now like 3, that hits you a ton in fantasy when those extra 5 fantasy points or 4 fantasy points go a long way when your salary is $4,600 in the difference of scoring 20 and 25 fantasy points, right? And really paying it off, especially on this type of a slate. So his rebounding rate is just shot to the most part, which affects his fantasy points per minute. When he's not getting as many putback rebounds, obviously guys like Whiteside and Nurkic are, so it all kind of spirals down. He's also not just shooting well either, so all of it's kind of all over the place. All right. Always wondered, how do you project ownership? Is it an educated guess or is there some kind of tool you use? I mean, I use third-party tools. I use like 3 or 4 third-party sites, and I also have like beta ownership that I use myself projecting. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of historical things, right? It's like this player on this similar price player at this position in the X amount of times we've seen it in the past. This is what his ownership comes in at. Things like that, right? This 1.1 fantasy point per minute producer, when he's out and his cheap team players on his team come in and they do this. So it's partially that. It's partially sort of like a sentiment type of feel. But a lot of it's just historical data analyzing similar slates. You can also get a very good feel on ownership if you just crunch out. If you have projections that you feel good about personally, if you use mine, if you're a patron, you can sign up down below on Patreon to get into that. But if you have projections that you use and feel comfortable with, if you crunch out 1,000 lineups or 500 lineups using those projections, not putting in any differences in terms of like limiting your player pool or limiting how much salary or groups and anything like that, the ownership that it gives you is a good way to kind of start the process of, okay, this guy I'm getting like 30% of the time, he's probably going to be somewhat popular, right? Something like that. So you can kind of simulate like a contest almost at that point by just creating and crunching lineups. That's another way to do it. And if you really want to get into it, you can start to do make some groups and do some obvious things that other people would probably do in the mid or higher stakes to get an idea of what ownership looks like there. Also, yeah, sign up on SuperDraft. $10. Somebody mentioned SuperDraft. Yeah, $10 upon your first deposit. $10. And 50% deposit match up to $1,000 Ruskies. They got some massive fucking prize pools right now for the NFL Week 1. And like Calvin Ridley's like a 1.4x multiplier, 1.45x. There's going to be some really good plays Week 1. But right now, they have the showdown format. All the Memphis guys look good. Like Morant, Joe Val, Dylan Brooks, they look like the best plays over there. So there's your hint of the day. I posted it on Twitter earlier. But yeah, be sure to check all of that out. Are we worried about CJ's fractured back? Yeah, I think it's affecting him. He's only been averaging 0.9 fantasy points per minute in the bubble when he's normally above a fantasy point per minute producer. So he's getting the bigger minutes that he normally does, but I am worried about that. I think that does limit his ownership though. Also from Damon Morant, if you enter 150 lineups, who do you have the most exposure to? Also, who's your favorite cheap play? I'm not playing 150 lineups today. As of right now, I have 0 lineups entered into the showdown. I hate showdown. I hate showdown in NBA. It's literally a lottery system. Like I have projections. If I play, it'll be single entry or 3-max contests. But the last 2 days have been very good. 2 days ago would have been really fucking good if I didn't switch out Josh Hart for Keldon Johnson last minute, like an $18,000 difference in the 777. Yesterday, 777 went well. I got to stop playing those though. They're just really bad long-term for ROI. You just have to hit high, and I screwed myself over out of it yesterday. But if I played 150 lineups, who would I have a lot of exposure to? Probably Dylan Brooks after that. Dylan Brooks, probably some decent amount of Brandon Clark. Grayson Allen even as just sort of a leverage play. Who are you projecting to have a better day, Brooks or Melo? So straight up points-wise, I am projecting Brooks to have 1.4 more fantasy points. Love the content, Sal. Keep it up. Your channel has blown up over the last year and a half. Congrats. Thanks, man. It doesn't feel like it because it's been very steady. Like if I made one video and it went from 4,000 to 20,000, I'd consider that blowing up. But every video normally gets, I don't know, sometimes it's only like 50 subscribers. Sometimes it's 150. It really depends on the sport, the timing of it. NFL, it'll be like consistently 100, hopefully, per video subscribers. But yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate all the support you guys have for me. Who's the guy that will fill the entire stat sheet across the board? Steals, blocks are so important. Yeah, especially if you do play on FanDuel. So a guy who will pick up like all of those. I mean, John Morant is going to fill up a lot of categories. He'll also fill up the turnover category as well for you. Gary Trent Jr. will fill up a decent amount of those categories. That's really it. Like Melton's not getting enough minutes or else he would be another candidate for it. Mario Hezonja, if he played a decent amount of minutes, would be somewhat of a candidate for it. But outside of the obvious, like Damian Lillard, like John Morant, Gary Trent Jr., and D'Anthony Melton, but he's just not going to get enough time more times than not. But yeah, I mean, if you're talking about just blocks, like Hassan Whiteside will fill up your block sheet a ton for you in his 16 to 17 minutes of play. Is Grayson Allen playing at all? Yeah, Grayson Allen plays a lot. Grayson Allen has been playing a ton. He's been playing so well in the bubble. He's definitely going to get himself a contract after this because of how well he's been playing. I have him for 28 minutes. Joe K. Stanley Johnson killed on your projections. Thanks, man. Yeah, Joe K. Donates $5. What's up, Joe? Hopefully you're having a good day. Yeah, man, a lot of those Toronto guys were good yesterday. We just talked about it on the stream. Like, so many options opened up. Joakim Noah opened up. All of the Amir Coffey dropped 40 fantasy points for us later on in the day, right? Like, those types of guys were not owned compared to the Toronto guys because the news came out later. Stanley Johnson did pop off as, like, the highest scorer. Terrence Davis did well, but then you had Terrence Mann, was it? Dropped like 60 fantasy points. Amir Coffey drops 40. Joakim Noah drops like 26. Yeah, there was just a lot of guys who played very, very well after later on after all those 70% owned Toronto guys went off. Like, we didn't need them. And went off meaning they played, not that they went off. Like, Chris Bouchard scored about 30 fantasy points. He 5.5x, 6x, when so many other guys are doing way better than that at a tenth of the ownership. Is it okay to fade Ja Morant? Yeah, I mean, if you're fading Ja Morant to play Damian Lillard, Nurkic, and Joe Val or McCollum, yeah, I think that's fine. Joe Val, captain or bust. That's fair. First time making a live video. Hello from the West Coast. Love all your content, Sal. So much love from Oregon. Keep it up, Paul. I hope you have a fantastic day. You rock. Sal, you're the GOAT. I want to see you and Al go head-to-head in this year's football. Yeah, man. Send Al a tweet or something. I definitely would like to do a video with Al or collab or just podcast or anything. Seems like a very stand-up dude. We obviously relate on the level of what our careers are / just content creators in this space. Definitely want to be able to connect with like-minded people. I just chatted with Nick Ercolano from BDGE behind the scenes just on some other business type stuff the other day. But even him, like, just having collaborative content with like-minded people is something that I want to continue to do more of and really just start doing more of. All right, everybody. Joe Val triple-double again. I mean, he's done it once in his career, so I doubt back-to-back's going to happen. Do not fade Ja Morant, somebody says. Yeah, I mean, I think the only person who you're probably not fading is Lillard. I think anybody, and by fading, if you're playing one lineup today and you don't have Ja Morant, I think that's fine. If it means that you want to get to Nurkic and Joe Val, I think that's fine. I prefer Lillard and Ja Morant to start lineups with today and get different elsewhere. But I'm not going to argue with you if you say you want to play Jonas Valanciunas over Ja Morant today. Like, I literally have right now Jonas Valanciunas projected for only a half a fantasy point less than Ja Morant, right? I have Nurkic projected for 3 less fantasy points than Ja Morant. If you're playing cash games and this wasn't a showdown slate, yeah, I would prefer Ja Morant in almost all formats. But on a showdown slate where variance matters and ownership matters, I think you can get to fading Ja Morant, who's going to be highly owned, and going to Nurkic if you wanted to over him. Doesn't grade as good of a play, but similar price points, probably lower ownership, and things can happen, obviously, in a variant one-game slate. You still working with the Osimo group? Yeah, man. I contract shows for Osimo. So my relationship with Osimo is just they pay me to come on our shows a couple times a week. Right now I'm doing 2 shows a week during the NFL season. We'll see if they want it. I believe I've talked to Nolan that I've expressed my interest in doing some NFL shows. We just don't have a schedule yet. So yeah, I do about 2 shows a week, depending on the season more. What are the chances we see overtime versus a blowout? I think there's a better chance you see overtime versus a blowout. I mean, overtime normally only happens in 6% of NBA games. So I'd say versus a blowout, I'd say there's a very strong chance that that's actually a good question. Overtime versus a blowout. I don't know the percentage of the time this game blows out, to be honest with you. Overtime happens in 6% of games, but also a lot of those games don't come in with the competitive mindset that with a close spread. So I'd say there's like a 10% chance this goes to overtime, 10 to 15. 10 seems about right. All right, everybody, I'm about to bounce. I heard yesterday Spags was leaving them. Yeah, I've talked to Spags behind the scenes. Very good dude, fun guy to do shows with. Just has another career objective. I don't know how to pronounce it. He has just a good opportunity. That's the word to use. Is everybody playing regular minutes? Yes, this is the play-in games. The playoffs have started. This is the playoffs right now. These are the play-in games. This is the final 2 teams. If Memphis wins, they have to win again tomorrow. If Portland wins, that's it. It's over. All right, everybody. Wow, we got 200 people watching this. Hit the like and subscribe button before you go. Wasn't planning on doing a half hour. I got to leave in a half an hour right now because I'm going to go do a class, a Pilates studio. My girlfriend has to test out for her certification, so I'm going to help her with that by just being a part of the class. And my back kind of hurts a little bit, so it's perfect timing. Is the captain spot calculated in your SuperDraft totals? No, it's all utility. All of my SuperDraft stuff is just for the utility. You can obviously just multiply it then by the other multiplier if you want to, by an extra, 50%? Thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Of course, running with Alex Baker and crew. Sal, top ranked in the world. Yeah, those guys are awesome over there, too. For some reason, I hope Whiteside gets run. Yeah, I mean, he's going to get 15 to 16 minutes, and then it's only up from there, in my opinion. Will Dame rest? No, Dame will not rest. Everybody, this is a play-in game. This game is the playoffs. The regular season is over. There's no more regular season games. This is technically the playoffs, right? If Portland wins, it's the 8 and 9 seed. This was already set up on the schedule. If Portland wins, since they're the 8 seed, they just have to win once. They go to the playoffs. This is a tournament right now. If Memphis wins, they have to win again tomorrow. This is not, you don't rest players, right? There's no resting in this. They're playing to get into the playoffs right now. These are the play-in games. This is a little tournament that they added in. If you were within 4 spots, of the 8 seed, that 9th seed gets a chance at gets a chance at a mini tournament, and they have to win twice. It didn't happen in the East because no teams were within 4 spots of the 8 seed. Like and subscribe, everybody. I appreciate you all a ton. Is there a guy below $3,000 that you would pick today? Below $3,000, the guy that I would probably pick today if I had to pick one would be, they all fucking suck, but Mario Hezonja. I have him for 10 minutes and more fantasy points than the only other guy down there that's viable today, and Anthony Simons, in my opinion. So below $3,000 would be Mario Hezonja. Peace out, everybody. But Hezonja is going to play at most 15 minutes today. He just takes the worst shots possible, kind of is a ball hog, and he's very bad at defense. He's just a liability out there. There's no way he stays out there more than a Gary Trent. There's no way he stays out there more than a Zach Collins, in my opinion. Peace out, guys. Peace out, guys. You all rock. You all rock. You all rock. Have a good day. Sign up for Super Draft. Promo code SAL gets you $10 and 100% deposit match up to $50. Projections and everything on Patreon are down below. And I'll see you all